Good evening. Welcome to Rivalz Race Chat. Clinton, Geoffrey, and Adam Ross every Tuesday here at 8 p.m. to chat it up and talk about all things racing, about our favorite sport. We're over the hump, Adam. We're steamrolling right towards race season now.
We are. I watched Chili Bowl last night. I was watching some of the heat races earlier, and yeah, it's moving right along, man.
We have three guests scheduled to be with us tonight. Mac Deman's going to join us to talk about where he's kind of come from. He was kind of the guy who led that charge into the dirt here in Ontario from the Can-Am Midgets, and a whole string of drivers have followed him into that deal. Mac's been up in the 360s, and now he's going back to where he started with the crates with the bar team, and hopefully he'll have some news for us on that. But either way, we also want to talk to Mac because he is he raced in the Chili Bowl too. So just like to pick his brain on the atmosphere there and what it's like and the pressure of having to go through that. I'm sure we'll talk about Chili Bowl there. That leads me into my next tie-in. When I text Mac this morning, to ask him to come on the show, he said, well, I'm supposed to be on Travis Cunningham and Jonathan Howe's show at 8 p.m. I don't know if I can do it. So then I said, well, we don't want to mess up their deal. And then right away, Travis called me and gave me heck. And he said, trying to steal our scoop. And I said, no, but are you free? And he said, yeah, I'll come on. So, and then you were hooking up Lane Zardo. So we have Mac Deman, Lane Zardo, and Travis Cunningham scheduled to join us here tonight. So excited about that. Mac just sent me a message out and said he's just getting back to his computer. He'll be with us momentarily. A few things to talk about. Obviously, Chili Bowl week is massive down there, and we'll get into that a bit more when we get Mac on. But let's jump to topic number 2, to stream or not to stream, Adam. This was a screenshot that came out this week. And it kind of, anybody watching this show knows where we are on the stream platform. We're all in on it. But throw that up if you can, Spencer. It was a post. Landon Huffman says, every local short track should have some type of weekly stream or broadcast. I used to think it would hurt the fan attendance, but I found that's not the case at the local level. Streaming races weekly allows drivers to market outside their local area. And Adam, this is something that, we feel very passionate about. We've seen the growth here in Ontario, and it's great to see it taking off down there as well.
There were interesting comments to go along with Landon Huffman's post, Clinton, and there's sometimes I really can't stand social media, but there's sometimes I really like it because it can bring out the best and the worst. And if you look for certain people's posts and look at the opinions that they bring out, you and I have had this conversation recently off the air. Like, have we handled everything the way we should? Should we be charging money for what we put? There's no cut and dried right answer. And I'm not saying that's what we're going to do, Clinton. I'm just saying the conversation has come up. Would we be farther ahead if we did what everyone else does and just charge the money to watch a race, shrink the audience? Like, we take a lot of pride in the number of people that view our programming and view our live streams. Would we trade that for money?
I think you and I both know that what the answer is. And from day one, I mean, you and I probably could have made a lot more money in this business if we really wanted to be greedy and go after our own deals. But I think we've always tried to do things for everyone around us, lift up your brothers and sisters as best we can. And I think by pushing the sport forward, you and I have talked about the effort it takes us to put on a full live production. And are we overboard at GeForce? Absolutely. But is our product good? 1,000%. I'll stand behind the product we're putting out. That being said, the amount of work it takes, you and I have discussed this. I don't think we would want to put all that effort in of an 18-hour day for 60 people to pay-per-view. It just, if they're not in the tens of thousands, it doesn't excite me anymore. And maybe we're just old and have done this long enough. But also the other thing that was talked about was tape delay. People brought to us, well, what if we recorded these races and put them up the next day? I think the answer is still the same for us. The energy and excitement, if it's not live, it's not the same for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Joel Robinson sort of captured lightning in a bottle. Through his dad, Jim Robinson, when they started doing the cast car broadcast week after on tape delay, and they sort of built a formula that's been the envy of a lot of touring series. I mean, when they show Joel's productions through the winter on MAV TV, put them up against a lot of other NASCAR Touring Series productions, blows them out of the water. So they figured out how to do it. But keep in mind, it also had a huge benefit to these race teams that were able to attract national sponsors, national marketing partners. So that's where that benefited. We're not there. That's not where we are. We've got to do the live thing. So it's a matter of finding what your lane is and making sure you're doing the absolute best in that lane, if that makes sense.
I think streaming has obviously taken off in the last 5 years, and I would say the over under on streaming helping or hurting racing is by far into the red to the help side. Way worse than it is. So there are going to be horror stories out there. I mean, there are tracks that are doing it shitty through, whatever platform, one camera guy, crappy announcers. It's not going to work. You're going to scare people away. And that was some of the comments, right? But, it's just a good discussion. Feel free to let us know where you guys are on the deal. I have always said, if we want the sport to be like other major sports, and right now we're at the level of maybe an OHL team, the good tracks are pulling in 2,000-3,000 people, an event, a game per se. So when you get into that, we're trying to take it to the next level so we can rub elbows with 10,000 people every time we do it, let's say. And I think as we grow the sport to that, more eyes seeing it, more people coming in, it's all going to work out. So it's funny. And Phil Nell says, what character would Adam Ross portray on Yellowstone? We were just talking about which one I would portray, but that's funny. Mac is ready to join us. Let's bring him on. Mac, do you watch Yellowstone?
Oh, my girlfriend does. That show, I made it like 3 episodes, is too slow for me. I live fast, man.
What? What?
Slow.
All right. All right. I can't knock you for it.
I don't watch any shows though, to be fair. I didn't watch Breaking Bad. I never watched any of the big shows. Never really been a TV guy. I watched Leaf games and that's about it.
Well, Adam, that goes back to last
fair.
week's talk bit where it said the good guys only do racing. If you're going to be good, it's the only thing you're going to do. Mac, let's talk about your situation. I'll give the fans the Coles notes. Came over from the Can-Am Midgets, jumped in with Barr, started lighting the world on fire through the crates, moved up to 360s with Ackland. Now you're going back to Barr. The big question mark is 360 or crate. What can you tell us about that?
I wish I had some shocking news for you, but no, I wish we were going 360 full time, but it's just not in the cards right now. We do have like a 360 that we might be able to put in the car for a couple of the big races. So I'm kind of working towards that. Yeah, just gonna run the crates. If any opportunities show up or something to run 360 or we're able to put some sponsorship together and do some more races. Sounds like we might have a motor at our disposal. Yeah, but just it's going to be fun to be back with the Bar Boys. A good change for me to go back to, like, it's a nice real driver setup. They like to wrench on the car. You ask them what the tire pressures are and they say, I thought you're a driver. So it's nice to show up and just focus on driving, where I had to do a lot of, wrenching on the car and tire grinding and stuff the last couple of years. But it's good. I learned a lot the past couple of years. Whereas before I didn't know what my tire pressures were when I was winning all those races. But it's good to learn more about the mechanical side of the car. But it'll be nice just living so far away and everything to be able to show up and have a car that's ready to go every week. It'll be nice to sort of take a step back in that sense.
Matt, Clint mentioned it early in the program that you were one of the early racers to go from asphalt, come over to the dirt scene. You had a lot of success in Can-Am midgets, and you took a big risk coming onto dirt because there's no guarantee that you're going to come over and be as successful when you start racing sprint cars as you were racing TQ midgets. Why did you do it? What was the thought process there?
Is the opportunity, really. I know the Barr family through the Can-Am midgets, and I think I had an interview with them, and it was between me or Rob Neely because we were kind of like the top 2 shoes in the TQs at the time. And look, we both ended up at Oshwegan. So I think I just followed the lead of guys like Josh Shantz that really took the leap and joined the series from scratch. And what driver is going to say no to an opportunity like that? Get your feet wet on dirt and try and work your way up there. It's like starting from scratch, getting your face rubbed in the dirt. I remember finishing last for like my first 5 or 6 weeks, and I would go home and think to myself, am I ever going to get this? Like, it took a while. There's a hump you have to get over of learning how to slide the car through the corner and just get used to the wheel spin, get used to the wing speed. It took a whole season for me to really get the hang of it.
That was going to be my question for you, Mac. I saw Steve Lyons talking to a John Cadman in his first weekend. And, when you have all these guys following your leads, and I'm sure a few of them came to you for advice, like what do you tell somebody who's coming out of the pavement ranks into the dirt for the first time? Like, and they say, Mac, like, what do I do? What's your first thing you tell them?
Listen to people that have been doing it. The Turner family, Jamie Turner was a huge help. I know not only for myself, but for the Barr family. Listen to people that have done it, take notes, and just laps. Like every new crate kid or any new crate rookie you see every year, every lap they get better. Austin Rose to when Brian Nanticoke started, or Dan, or anyone, it's all laps. And just don't get discouraged. Get your laps in, show up to practice day, every track that has a practice day. Because when it comes to race time, you don't want to be in the B main. You need those 20 laps. You need to make the A main. And that's how you just work your way up.
So how committed are you to points racing this year, Mac? With the crate sprint, will you follow the tour? Will you follow the every Friday night at a Schweeken deal, or are you going to pick and choose?
I don't think the bars usually travel for the whole deal. We might travel for some of the races for the actual tour. I haven't really talked about it. I mean, I'll drive the car if they want to go to a race, but I haven't seen Schweeken's schedule, but I heard it might be a little bit less than it has been in years past in terms of points nights. So who knows, might be able to run for points. I do have a couple of weddings to stand in this summer, but we'll see. Got to see Schweeken's schedule, Clint.
Send me your wedding dates, maybe for a slip in the pocket. We can make that happen for you.
I seem to have the lucky edge when it comes to mission races.
Yeah. Better watch what you say. We'll make sure it doesn't happen this year. Just for the schedule's pretty much set. So none of these conversations are going to get it out. But that's the topic for another. It's funny you talk, Matt, laps. I had a moment to talk to Mike Bowman on the phone today, and he was talking about some young up and coming kids to any type of racing. And, if you jump in at, 16, 17, 18, Mike said, think how far behind you are. And he was telling this father the same advice. Get in laps, every bit of laps you can. Get in a go-kart, get the kid. Because he's already so far behind starting out at 16. Because some of these kids are starting at 5 and 6 years old. So you're absolutely right. I fully think that's, a great point. Let's talk about Chili Bowl, Mac. That's part of the reason we wanted you in. You had the opportunity to go down there and race before. What's that like going in, and what kind of expectations can you even possibly have?
The atmosphere is unreal. I wish I wish the last time I went, I'd gone with 360 experience. I'd never been able to break the wheels loose with that much power before. So it was a real learning curve. I wish I could go. I hope to go back at some point. The little bit of TQ midget and fabrication part of me likes that the rule book is kind of open over there. Like I'd love to design a midget, build a midget, like the Bondio car, build something different, go down, build a really lightweight car. I love the idea of the Honda engine, like totally reliable, lasts a long time, somewhat affordable for someone like me. And then you could maybe, have an outdoor car that you swap the Honda into and do some outdoor races and cross the border, like East Coast. Who knows? That's something I'd love to do. Not to mention a bunch of tracks around us were perfect size for midgets.
Not to mention there's people that are still hounding Glenn Stiers to build a replica that you can run the Chili Bowl all winter long, week after week, in an indoor facility in his backyard. So
Adam's got that petition out hard.
We're putting the word. What's the investment like, Mac? The way you did it, which I believe was a rent a ride. Correct me if I'm wrong. What's the investment like to go down there and run that race?
Well, you have it really depends on the car and the team. If you want to be with the top team and a top car, I think you're upwards of the 10, 15 grand US dollars, which we were in the area of. But we were with a good California team. The cars weren't lightweight indoor cars, but good motors, good cars. I think it was somewhere around like $7,000, maybe $6,000. Raised some sponsorship and was able to put a deal together with Samuel Steele and Nathan Ackland. Helped me there before I even drove for Nate. Nate was a huge help for me before I even drove for him. So I can't thank Nate enough for all my time with him. And Chili Bowl, you gotta you gotta get a hotel for a week, and it's not just a weekend race. There's a lot
And
of
that's what I
expenses that go
mean.
into
Like
it. Yeah,
the cost of getting there, the cost of being there, and then the cost of actually racing.
yeah, and you hope you don't wreck anything because every Nerf bar has a price, especially when you're renting a ride. So yeah, no, there's lots of expenses other than the racing for Chili Bowl, but definitely something that I would do again.
My last question for you, Mac, before we let you get back to it. Appreciate you coming on. Robbie Longboat has a question here. His question was, how long did it take you to decide to go back to bar? But I think the better question would be, let's talk about the vast differences between Team Bar and Team Nathan. Both are successful in their own right. Both put great equipment on, but both have a totally different kind of attitude and way of getting it done, if you will. Nathan is very businesslike, and the Bars, well, they like their cabbage rolls and beers. So talk about the differences between the two teams.
Yeah, totally different. I feel like I'm a little bit of both. I can be the professional side, and me and Nate became great friends, and we had a great time together. But I also grew up at camping at Sawville Speedway with Bars from being a teenager at the Tiki Midgets. So there's a lot of history both ways, and I feel like I could fit in with both teams. And just looking forward to a little change of scenery and seeing what we can do.
Mac, I know the fans are looking forward to seeing you at the racetrack. That's one thing you've got going for you. A lot of people just love watching you race, and there's a reason for it. You're always exciting to watch. I appreciate your style of driving. It gives us something to talk about. So just the fact that you're going to be in a car, I don't care what kind it is. I'm just glad you're going to be there racing for us.
Yeah, me too. That's the whole thing. Some people ask, why do you go back to bars? I don't really have a whole lot of options. Not that nothing against the bars. I love the bar family, but I rather run crates and run for the bars than retire because I just have too much fun out there with everybody.
Well said. Well said. Thanks for being on with us, Mac. Clint, did you have anything more?
No, we're all good, Mac. Thanks for the short notice. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll follow your progress throughout the season.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Good night.
Cheers.
Mac Deman, going back to crates, Adam, I just pulled up the all-time history list here last week, and he leads it with the all-time crate feature win leader with 13. Then behind him, you got Hunsinger and Holly Porter with 10, Aaron Turkey 9, Josh Shant 7, Costa 6. So, I mean, you still got a ways back there. And, man, to see him, Bowman, and these other young guys going at it, not sure what Dykstra's going to be doing, but it's going to be an awesome deal for the crates this season.
Oh, I think so. It seems to me there was a time in crate sprint car racing when Mac was running them where either he won or we had to ask why he didn't win. You know what I mean? He was that good at that time that there was a reason why he didn't win a given race.
Absolutely. Same can be said about
Because
our
he
next
won
guest
most.
here in the Quick Super Stocks. We'll bring in Lane Zardo now. Lane, welcome back to the program. Obviously, we have to talk about the loss of your grandfather most recently. You and him were tight, and hearts out to you guys. But we appreciate you coming on, and the legacy is going to live on.
Yeah, me and the whole family's kind of doing everything we can to make sure everything lives on with him. It's been definitely been a tough month, but luckily he's been such a busy guy his whole life. I don't have really time to grieve too much. I just got to keep on pushing on and keep on doing pretty much what he would do, and that's work every day and work on the race car every night.
Well, there you go. What are the plans, Lane? What have you got going on this year, and how have they changed in the last month?
Um, I mean, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of variables that have to be filled in before I can say exactly what's going on. But I do know Sunset Speedway will have a memorial race for my grandfather. I believe it's actually before the Pinty's race. It's going to be a hot rod race, May 13th, I believe. The drivers to be announced. We might have to take a vote, whether it's my brother, my uncle, my cousin Petey. I got another cousin, Scotty. He used to race karts with me and Mac Deman, your last guest, and he's got the highest win ratio in the whole family. And who knows, maybe we'll even put Aunt Sharon in the car, see what she can do. But there's a bunch of stuff that could possibly be done. We just need a little bit of time, and we definitely just need a little bit more organization to figure out everything.
I think it's awesome that you guys plan on getting that car out and living the legacy on that. That's super cool. Lane, what about your plans for the year? You've had some great success with the Quick Super Stocks. Any news on where you're going to be in 2023 yourself?
We actually, with the whole 36 Best of Force Products racing crew, we just had a team meet on Friday, and we think we got what we want to do, laid out pretty well. We just need to make you guys wait before we announce it, to be honest. We need to make sure
this is all good. You got to build a little bit of suspense into the program.
Yeah, but we're going to be racing full time at a track. We're just we're not sure we want to say exactly which track yet. We will be competing for the Quick Series title again. That series is way too fun to be a part of. You guys pump it up way too much. You guys put so much effort into it. It'd be a shame if I didn't put any effort into getting, our butts there. So with a lot of support from Best of Forest Products, Andy Schmidt, Shelby Roofing, and Gord's Basement Waterproofing, we're going to have that car at all 5 quick races. We're going to show up to as many invitationals as possible. I just got to try to find the best balance between being there when my grandfather's car is at the racetrack and being there when I'm racing with the 36 car, because I've done double duty as a driver and as a crew chief and a spotter. And I've been a part of 3 different race teams in one day. And then sometimes you just run around with a chicken with your head cut off and it's not worth it. So just got to figure out what works best for my schedule. Obviously, my Uncle Pete Shepard's schedule, he's going to be a big part of what goes on with my grandfather's car, and what works best with my brother's schedule as well.
Moving down, Lane, as we get closer to it, what's something you're super excited about this coming summer?
Showing up with my grandfather's race car, to be honest. Just my whole life I've been racing because of him. Now with him not really behind the scenes in the garage working with me, I'm intrigued to see what me and my brother can do out of our shop and just, try to showing up at the racetrack, driving his old hauler, hauling his race car. It's going to be something special for me. I would like to run Memorial Night, my Pro Late Long at Flamborough. That's always been a special night for a lot of people. And now it's just got that little more edge to it for me, at least.
Oh, of course. I want to switch gears just a little bit, Lane, because you've got your finger on the pulse of what's going on. Sunset Speedway. They've done a bunch of things this off season. They've been very active. They've been the talk of the town. What's the word on the street? What are people saying about the changes made there? NASCAR sanctioning, running hot rods and looking to make that a focus. Is Brian Todish onto something there?
I guess we'll have to wait and see this summer if it pays out. I mean, Brian's pretty new to the sport, but he does love racing, and he wants to try his best to make racing succeed. I've noticed Brian's at every single invitational there is for every other track as a fan, just trying to watch and trying to, be a part of the community and do whatever he can for the sport. So I don't know if NASCAR is the best thing, but we'll have to wait and see kind of how it plays out with that. I know we'll be there to support a bunch of the hot rod races and whatnot. I'm going to go check out the rules meeting. I think it's this weekend. But whether I race there or not, I'll be in the beer gardens a lot of weekends as well. They got an amazing facility. Sunset's one of my favorite tracks to go to. Between Sunset, Delaware, and Oshwegan, to be honest, they're my 3 favorite race tracks to stop in at.
Lane, you mentioned last week, and your grandpa got out in the dirt last year. Where is that car, and what's the story with that 46 we saw?
So that car is actually my stepdad, Steve Perry. That's the first car I've ever ran. I've ever ran for somebody other than my grandfather back in 2009. So Brandon McFerrin drove that car, and then we leathered it up so my grandfather could play in the dirt, so he wouldn't be so wet when it came to his outing in the dirt when it came to the Hot Rod Series. So that car is just kind of sitting a little bit vacant right now. It'd be nice if me and my stepfathers could get it out this year a little bit, but I don't know. It'd be pretty cool if somebody would come by and figure out a way to get it at Oswego Speedway, because it was really cool seeing our numbers on that racetrack.
Adam, I got one more quick one for Lane. The other one I was on one as we're talking your grandpa's cars. Was he aware that we were trying to fly under that wing of the Superbird, and that was our running joke all summer? And Abby actually got it done and bounced it off the tail lid at Delaware and made some money off Dave Lloyd. Did it ever get discussed in the shop? Adam, what did you want to add to it?
Did you not hear about this?
No.
I guess not. Tell the story, Lane.
Okay, well, I don't know what story you're talking about, but I know Grandpa's under the impression that he's owed a new paint job. It got knocked off his roof, and he thought something broke on the race car. I thought it was badass, to be honest. But every time we were in the shop, he looked at the dent and just, here we go.
See, now here's your grandpa cleaning the tires, and Abby's saying, if you just sit still, man, I could do it.
And the story I got from Lane, like he just said, that Grandpa thought something broke on the car because he heard the clunk of the drone hitting it and came over the radio to say something had gone wrong. So
it's coming up here. So we are live at Delaware Speedway at their Fall Brawl weekend here, and Abby keeps trying to tee him up, and he went for it about 2 times, but here it comes here, and I actually thought he crashed it because he bounced it off the hood.
Wham!
But no, it was good fun.
Yeah, and between that footage, he had good GoPro or drone footage of the wreck on the front stretch at Delaware the week before, or the race before, a few months before. They got some pretty good footage there, and that's kind of a running joke through the whole thing. I'm pretty happy he did it. It's seeing stuff like that kind of makes it fun. Stuff like that. My grandfather's definitely lived a wild life. Like when he was 30 and 40, I bet you he partied like an animal. He raced like a demon. He lived life. But out of the last 20, 30 years, I think he had the most fun. The best year was his last year out of, the last half of his life. And, it's happy. Like a lot of it's because of you guys, because of the racing, and, it just definitely means a lot.
I don't know a lot of things, Lane. I know you miss your grandfather, but I'll tell you what, if I get the opportunity to live right up until the moment it's over, I watched my parents decline for a long, long time and not live a good quality of life. Strike me down one day when I'm doing what I want to do, and there's not many better ways to go out than that.
Yeah, he said the same thing. He said if he ever started to get sick, give him a big steak and show him the end of a shotgun, pretty much. So nobody can live forever, but if you're lucky, you can be an asshole until the second you die. And like he was holding a part in his hand, and he was coming out to scream at me and my brother working on the race car, probably for doing something not his way. So, racing's been his whole life, and I hope to God I can kind of carry on that legacy between me and my brother and the rest of our family. And I appreciate you guys for giving me a platform to express that.
No problem, Lane. We're going to move on here tonight, but as soon as you have that news, we want to hear it. You let us know. We'll get you back on here to fill us where you'll be weekly and obviously out on the tour, which is great news. We appreciate the character you bring to the show as well, and it's been really good to build this thing together, and glad we could be there to show off, some of your grandpa's highlights at the end.
Yeah,
all right, I appreciate it, guys.
You said. Give your best to the family, please. Tell them we're thinking about them, and we look forward to seeing you all at the races.
Cheers, guys. Have a good show, and when we get to spilling some tea, I'll let you guys know.
Thanks, Lane.
Yeah, I can't believe you hadn't heard the story about that Bill coming over the radio to say he thinks something's broke on the car.
No, I didn't catch that one. What are you watching over there?
Who?
I don't know. We're hearing
Well, I'm
something.
watching my wife walk through the kitchen naked, and she's left her phone somewhere with the volume just blaring on it. So
Got
we're
you.
pretty popular with the neighbors.
We're just flowing from one show to the next. Before we bring on Travis Cunningham, let's quickly go to Big Dogs by the Car series. Adam, this is something that you wanted to talk about. Actually, we should hold off on that. Don't show it yet, Spencer. Matt Weaver. I messaged Matt Weaver, Adam, to get him to come on to talk about that. And we'll talk about that situation after we're done with Travis. Matt said he would come on next week. He did leave Racing America, put a post up this week as well. So he's going back to freelance a bit. Matt is covering the Chili Bowl. He said he would gladly join us next Tuesday to talk about what his opinion of the late model scene in the States and these stars buying up the Cars Tour. We'll show that after. But let's bring on Travis Cunningham now. Travis has most recently got to work with Jonathan Howe, Merrittville's announcer, and Travis is back there announcing with them on a lot of nights too. Travis, welcome to the show. You guys have your own show now. Show the screenshot of their podcast, Spencer, if you can, so anybody can figure out where they're going to do it. And Travis, we've been buds for a while. Didn't mean to steal your guest tonight, but thank you for lending us Mac Deman because he'll show up on your show in a couple weeks, you said. So we appreciate that. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Yeah. Just like you said, just a little deal with the guests there. I always watch your show like on a Tuesday. Tonight was like one of the first nights that we didn't record on Thursday. I always watch your show and then see who you had and then pick our guests. Cause like I think we stepped on each other's toes once with Corey Turner during the summer before I started doing that. And then after that, I've always wanted to do that. But yeah, just starting that podcast with Jonathan, that's been everything. And honestly, you guys inspired it. We went to Spotify and like to the podcast route only because like we didn't want to look like we were copying you, to be honest, like to start with. But like,
buddy,
yeah,
don't sweat that.
That's how it started though. But like, I would always tune in. I still always tune in, but like you guys started having like a little bit more pavement guests, and like at first you started out a little bit more on the dirt side, and then we came up with the idea of just having a show that's pretty much all dirt.
Wow, you've
lost
betrayed your
Spencer
roots. Do the fans know that Travis Cunningham grew up at the asphalt tracks? Like, do people know this, Travis?
Not a lot of people. I don't like the people that know, but like, yeah, a lot of people don't probably know that. Yeah, like I was a Flamborough kid growing up, Lancaster kid, but then when it became time for me to move in to racing race cars, the pavement side just wasn't quite it for us. Like we couldn't afford tires and stuff like that, and like the pavement world stuff like that, and Merrittville was 20 minutes down the road from us, so yeah, we just ended up going to the dirt side. It was crazy. Like if I would have gotten a pavement late model with my dad's experience of owning cars for Earl Ross back in the day and stuff, like we could have probably banged off some numbers. Like I ran a Pro Challenge car once and I think I got up to fourth from last. So like, and like when we went into that car, like it was like a back marker car. My dad's old buddy Austin owned it, and like the first hot lap session, it was the most undrivable POS you've ever driven in your life. And then like a couple adjustments, and my dad had it hugging the rail, like completely perfect. Ed Beauchart was helping that day too, and we had it dialed in. And then yeah, I went like tail to fourth in one of those races. That's my only pavement experience ever. But yeah, I was a pavement kid first.
Travis, now racing sprint cars. We lost your dad. Can't be 10 years ago already, is it?
Yeah, buddy. 10 years, December 2nd it was. Or no, 12.
Now you're out racing with your mom. Rose is a big part of what you do. How special is that for you?
Yep.
A lot of the nights it's you and mom out there and taking on the bigger teams.
Yeah, another one is Billy Evans, who was my dad's best friend. Like Billy Evans' story and my dad is one of the coolest stories ever. Is like Billy was a drag racer and my dad was one of the better drag racers around here back in the time. And Billy was literally one of my dad's biggest fans. Like he would just tow around and go to all the races. And yeah, was like his biggest fan. And they ended up meeting up one time, and yeah, they just became best friends ever. So to do that with my mom and Billy, oh man, you're choking me up right now, even just talking about it. It's awesome.
Sorry, buddy, that wasn't the plan.
That's okay.
Adam, you're muted, by the way.
Yeah.
You have to unmute your
Oh, am
thing
I?
whenever you mute it. There you go. We got you now. Go ahead.
So one of the things I like most about you, Travis, is you're what racing is all about, right? It's about the friends and the family, and you talked about
Mhm.
relationships that go back to the most part of all the obviously Flamborough Speedway, but things that are intertwined over decades and still are alive and well today in 2023.
Yeah, like our fam, like so, like yeah, our family's connected to so many people. Like even like if we just go through people right now, like that don't run around here, like the Mowitts, Larry Jackson, who else was there? Like Jeff Hanley, we had him at one point. Pee Wee Evans. Like there's just so many people around that even ended up in the dirt world. Link Brown, there's another guy that went from pavement to dirt. He was one of our customers, and Tim Ellis, we had him at one point. Like, and we never went to the races to see my dad's motors lose all that much, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, like John Fletcher as well. How am I forgetting him? And yeah, just so many awesome people that we met, and then we got to go and do it all again on the dirt side, which is completely amazing. Because like when my dad was working with Fioravani's, after we sold our or closed our shop, and then I got to work with Pete Bicknell a lot as well. And like Pete Bicknell and Nancy showed up to the hospice when my dad was dying, and like totally blew me away. So yeah, that's what, like you say, racing's all about. Just making, even when we get on each other's nerves, like we're still completely family. Like I got people that I wouldn't call them an enemy, but like maybe aren't my favorite person ever. But if I saw them struggling at the racetrack, I'd probably dive in there and help and wouldn't even think twice about it. And like you said, yeah, that's what racing's all about.
Travis, that's why we call racing family and not friends. Because a lot of the
Yeah,
time we don't like each other, but we still know we're family.
That's a good way to put it.
exactly. That's exactly how I feel. And yeah, and now I got my, like, a cool story here is like my two crew guys that joined on this year, William Piefinch and Aaron Matthews, literally grew up on my street. And they were like into road course racing a little bit and souping up car. And then they came to Humberstone last year to one of the KOT races. And Willie messaged me on Facebook after, wanted to get a part of it. And now it's the Lakeview Avenue Warriors down in the garage. So just stuff like that too. And now we've got two new faces at the track that wouldn't have been there before.
Right on. Travis, what are your plans for the season? First off, announcing and then racing.
Yeah, I always forget I'm an announcer. I always like think of myself as a racer first. You guys dragged me back into that. Thank you for that. Working with Adam last year at Humberstone. But I do love announcing. Like I talked about that. We just recorded our next episode of the podcast and I talked about it, but like with Andrew Hennessy this week, going to drop Saturday. Plug. Anyway,
Perfect.
but like what
Yeah,
announcing
name
taught
it. Name
me.
your pod. Drop the
Oh,
name.
yeah.
Tell people where they can find it too.
Southern Ontario Dirt Show. It's on Spotify, Apple, all wherever you can find your podcasts. But where I was going with that is when I became in it, like I talked about how I don't like when people hate on divisions. Like I like all the divisions. I'll watch a late model race. I'll watch no matter anything. Like I'll just watch it. But I'll even watch Cathcar. I love it. Anyway, but like don't hate on a division, because when you announce, it teaches you that there's good races in every division and bad races in every division. And some nights, if your division wasn't a good race, there's probably going to be two other ones that were good that night. You know what I mean? And yeah, the announcing part, that's definitely fun. Thank you guys for getting me back into it, because I did do it at Merrittville with Dana Curvin for a year and a half there. I think I even announced with Clint at a Super Dirt Series race once. It all runs together, the announcing stuff.
Probably,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. It was a good time. And then, yeah, Jerry, you guys asked me to do it again last year to fill in when Greg couldn't make it to Humberstone, and been back ever since. Me and Johnny been doing Humberstone.
Travis, let's shift gears back to motors. Your dad taught you a lot. Are you building your own engines right from scratch? How much of those power plant are you putting together on your own?
All of it. Doing all the assembly work and disassembly and stuff like that. My friend Rob Becker, who I worked with at ERD back in the day, he does all my machine work. He's basically a brother to me. Trust him with everything I have, and that's, if you're going to do that kind of stuff, you need someone like that. And other than that, like, yeah, like back when we would watch NASCAR, even early sprint cars, you'd see a lot of engine failures, and you don't see that quite as much today. That's because the parts have like gotten so much better. Like back then you couldn't just take pistons out of the box and put them in. You'd have to rub them and make them all perfect and then put them in. Now you can just take them out of the box and put them in, do a little bit. So like that's one thing I do tell racers is don't be scared of the motor. A lot of people don't listen, but like try to learn how to do a little bit yourself, because that's where all the cost is in racing. Most of it. A lot of it.
So,
No, Travis, I want to get your
Travis,
opinion
do you have it?
Go ahead, Adam.
Do you have a few? Can you stay with us till 9, Travis? Because I think going through these topics, Clint, it'd be fun to get Travis's take on something.
Yeah, I can definitely stay if you want me to.
That's where I was going to go. The ugly side of racing. So this week, Kevin Harvick came out in an article I read it, and we have three screenshots of it, I think. And basically the message, Travis, was he said he's seen a lot of families tear themselves apart by overspending because they think their kid is the next Dale Earnhardt. And show the screenshots if you can, Spencer, and the advice. So he says, I tell parents all the time, you have to be able to do what you can do within your means and not destroy your family. I've seen it happen time and time again where people everything they have thinking they're doing the right thing, and they don't do it properly and destroy their whole life thinking their kid's the next junior, and that's not for everybody. Go to the next one, Spencer. So his advice is try to be successful as the division you can afford. And when you can do that, try to figure out how to go to the next. Because you can race at every local short track, and they all have Friday, Saturday night races. If you're good, go there. There's some sort of regional touring division if you master that to move up to, and you can slowly work your way up. But there's a increasing price tag with it all. And I think this is the best advice. In the end, you can still get there by having success. It's just a matter of being around the right people and being in the right places. If you can't afford to go to all the races, go to the ones you can afford to do right. And that's more important than just showing up at every one of them. What do you take of that advice, Travis?
That shows why Kevin Harvick's been in racing all his life, and he's made it to the upper echelons of the sport, and he knows his stuff, and like couldn't be any more true right there. Like I hear a lot of people talk about like the cost of racing, which is true, and like I don't want to pick on the GSR or like in some of the, but like some you'll walk through and you'll see like some of the pro teams and they'll have 60 shocks in there, and then a guy who maybe has like an aspiring career will look at that and think they have to have that, and then you hear all the stories of like, oh, this guy spent 94,000 on a motor and stuff. Like to get out there, you don't really have to do all that. You know what I mean? And I even beat some of those $94,000 motors this year with a motor I built myself with 2008 technology and like stuff. If you took to an engine builder today, be like, oh, that's garbage. You can't do anything with that, blah, blah, blah. But we race on pretty slicker tracks around here. So we ain't racing at Knoxville every week. So you kind of can do that. But that's just all I say. Yeah. Like, don't say racing's too expensive and then have the $4,000 air jacks as well. So like, you know what I mean? Like air jacks are sweet, but you got to be able to afford them. Just like Kevin said, if you like your brother's the perfect example. Like if you're going to race one track, you don't need 60 shocks. You don't even need that. Like you need about 8 tires, 6 tires total. You don't need even a spare fronts. Like if you get a flat, just pull up. So you can need a couple stagger options, about 8 shocks total to that really do it. So you could have one for every. But like, don't go outside your means, exactly like he said, and try to do everything yourself. Like, even if you have to take your car to a setup shop specialist to get it scaled once, like take your notebook there, write everything down and try to learn as much as possible, because racing it is a little bit kind of a smart person sport and the grand scheme of things. And Randy Giroux was on our podcast and like, he just talked, like he's going to school for racing and stuff. And he just talked about like how everything in racing could be put back to a mathematical formula. And like, that really spoke to me. And like, yeah, that's all I can do for like people trying to get, and no matter what the division, like mini stocks, street stocks, everywhere, try to do your own stuff, especially like the weekly maintenance and that kind of stuff. And maybe learn how to set your own valves and all the easy kind of weekly maintenance stuff for sure.
You know, I wonder if we can get the sport to a point where Moneyball comes into play, right? Where people use analytics and that sort of thing, to where you just need that combination of what matters the most. And you do it, Travis, out of necessity, right? Mikey Kretschka does it out of necessity. Focus on what's important. But Clint, I want to bring this point together. There's 2 things I want to talk about. 20 years ago, a friend of our family said, he says, Adam, he says, no matter what racetrack you go to, almost everybody you look at is trying to race 1 or 2 divisions above where they can afford to race. That's just human nature. Everyone's trying to play up. And Clint, I talked to an old friend today about the Cars Tour, about Dale Jr. and Kevin Harvick and Jeff Burton and Justin Marks, Brent Marks, one of the Marks. buying the Cars Tour. And he says all they did was just double the cost of going to run the Cars Tour. He says, look at every Xfinity owner, truck owner, ARCA owner that were not part of the upper echelon. They're going to leave and they're going to go race in the Cars Tour. And they're going to push all the mom and pop operations that were running the Cars Tour and move them out because they'll run the budgets twice as much as they want to run. It's like a shit rolls downhill kind of theory. And Clint, is what I talked to you about today, Clint. Like, what do four wealthy people know about trying to put on an affordable racing series? And I know you've got a different take on that, and I hope it works out for the best. But I thought their story of some of those owners coming down the hill and pushing people out of a series that wasn't that broken to begin with, and it's just going to leave a different flavor of mess.
Travis, what's your thoughts on this? You know, we see, put that back up for a bit, Spencer, if you can. So it was Jeff Burton, Dale Earnhardt, Kevin Harvick, and Justin Marks from Trackhouse Racing picking up the ownership of the Cars Tour. And we've seen it work out. Now, I'm more of a glass half full. I think, having these guys come into the sport should be able to attract more money, more sponsorship, increase, the purse payouts, those types of things, bring in new contingency sponsors. That's good, Spencer. You can kill it now. But, Travis, what's your thoughts on it? I mean, my opinion is it can only be good for the sport. I don't necessarily, I guess my knee-jerk reaction isn't that it's going to run up the cost. I guess I'm more hopeful that they can bring more awareness, more eyes, more, dollars to the deal.
Yeah, and I heard Justin Marks talking about it on Sirius XM this week, and like he kind of said the same thing as how they're using the dirt world, how this kind of exploded through like even Tony Stewart way back at Ush Weekend running them sprint car races back in the day and winning his first World of Outlaw race at Ush Weekend. Like that made a huge deal in the NASCAR world, you know what I mean? And like the dirt world's been working on it for over a decade, and then now we've got $1 million sprint car race this summer at Eldora. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where they're trying to go. They're trying to use the star power that they've got and just try to get more eyes on it. Because you don't see any $1 million to win late model races. You know what I mean? You don't see any $500,000 win or even like a Knoxville National Styles purse. So that's what they're trying to do. He says they've got a lot of work to do because the dirt side's got 2 decades almost jump start. Like Tony's been owning cars since like early 2002 and stuff like that. But like Dale Jr.'s already in there. So I don't know how much farther they can drive the cost up in that kind of racing other than just having a couple more names there. And like I'm with Clint on this one. Like the way that I heard Justin talking about it on Sirius, they're definitely trying to emulate the dirt world, try to get the bigger paying shows and just trying to make it explode like the way the dirt world has.
Well, just like
Adam,
Adam,
I hope you're right. I hope they're right.
Yeah, and I said to you, Adam, we look at guys like Harvick bitching that there's so much wrong with the sport. You got to think they're doing it for the right reasons. Dale Earnhardt, we know his massive heart, doesn't need $1 out of the sport. Anything he's doing is for the good of the deal. I think, and I feel the same way about Marks, and when he's done with Trackhouse, I think they can only be good for the sport. And of course, Burton's in it too. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Don't get me wrong, but I don't think any of them would intentionally do something to hurt racing. Like, I think their intentions are good. I just don't know, can they still relate to someone who skipped their last mortgage payment because they needed a set of practice tires for the next race?
I mean, we just talked about the last segment, right? You're going to have guys in every sport. You're going to have the Travises and Mikeys out there battling the Steyrs and the Nanacokes. It's just the way it goes, So, I mean, I think the sport will inevitably be okay when it all comes down. Travis, let's talk about Maryville.
Just people not like getting overwhelmed when they see that big trailer stuff. Like I see open trailer pictures of people winning races on Facebook at least a couple times a year, right? Like Andy J went down to Hickory with like a 40 big, huge modified with his little tiny truck and trailer and won. So don't let them big teams scare you. Okay, next.
Yep.
Yeah, and Tim McCready with his, they ended up making a t-shirt.
Exactly. There's another amazing one. Yes. Yep.
How about this, Travis? This is something I wasn't aware you could do. Recertify your belts. We'd been talking about expiry dates on belts. I got this post come across from our friends at Ranceville, the McGinnises, and it said you could recertify your belts. It says if you don't have a set of these American-made racing ratchet-style belts in your race car, you seriously need to invest in a set. You'll only be more comfortable behind the wheel. You'll be tighter and safer. Hooker Harness will repair if needed, as well go through and recertify them every 2 years. Don't hesitate to ask. Look them up at hookerharness.com. I thought this was brilliant. We've seen this deal. It's an SFI deal. As a track, we're forced into it. But first off, these ratchet belts are awesome, right, Travis? If you've not had them, have you used them? Have you tried them?
I tell everybody that's the best thing I've ever bought for my sprint car in my life, because I went from struggling with like a hook and a guy pulling down on the side. Like sprint cars are just, and dirt modifieds as well, are pretty tough to get your like a waist belt tight. And now in a sprint car, you can literally just grab that ratchet and click, 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 click until it's like best thing I've ever bought for my race car.
Show the picture of this. So these are actually, if you look there, right in the middle of the screen between both sets of the belts is a ratchet, and that sits down on the left side of your seat. So instead of someone having to pull your waistband tight in a sprint car, it's hell. I mean, I've tried to do it myself, but you can just ratchet that. What a cool design. I'm not sure who came out with it. All the brands basically have it now, but the ratchet design is kick-ass. But if you need to recertify your belts, this is something we're going to be looking into, because I think it's a great idea. Got to be more cost-effective than just throwing those expensive sets out every 2 years, right, Travis?
We did it for years, Clint. We
I
did
would
it for
agree,
years
yep.
at Leaf Racewear.
Yep. Let's get back to that.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say about the ratchet belts, like we should start keeping a 1/4-inch ratchet in like at least one tow truck, because some people don't have the panel there, so they can leave the ratchet attached. But like me, I have a panel there and I have to take it off. So I would need a ratchet if my belts ever came undone. This never happened yet, but that would happen.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, while we're on the topic of that, one rule got pitched to me recently. Travis is a sprint car guy. 2 minutes in the work area is something contentious for everybody. What if we only did it for flat tires? Is that something you'd be in favor of?
Yeah, like
So the only way, Adam, hear me
out.
out. The only way you get your 2 minutes in the work area in the sprint cars last weekend is if you have a punctured tire. Everything else, you're just out.
Yeah. Or like, yeah, I'm totally in. You don't have to, because to me, the 2 minutes in the work area when you're not getting it, it feels like 2 hours.
On the broadcast, it's horrible too.
Yeah.
All right, where do you want to go from here, Adam?
What's our Burger Barn video of the week? I have a feeling I know.
We got 2 of them on the works. Show them up, Spencer. Just queue up whatever you got there. One was one late model monster truck and the other, and I want to know if it's payback or not. So
I never heard it with the sound on.
Okay, so this is our Burger Barn video of the week. So these 2 cars get together. We might have to watch it a couple times, Spencer. So see if we can
That
pick it
looks
up
like
yet.
New Smyrna.
Okay, so the 2 cars get together, but the black car, did he keep his foot in it, Travis? And was he pissed off in monster truck? So they get together here. Can you slow it down, Spencer? So they're together. Now you think he would be on the brakes, but he's got enough momentum to gas it up and drive right over the guy. Now watch it full speed one last time if we can.
It's possible that in the heat of the moment and in fright, you mash both pedals by accident, or you get your bell rung and you don't know what you're doing. But
My initial thought was the throttle stuck, but at that point, man, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's retaliation at that point. Like they're already stuffed in the wall, and then he just flipped himself after. Like I saw that, I was like, holy smokes.
Wouldn't be the first time we've seen someone flip themselves trying to be an asshole.
That's true.
What must that look like for the driver on the bottom? Right? Like you've already had a bad night, you're crashed into the wall backwards. What must that look like to be staring at the drive shaft of a car coming up over your nose?
At that point, I'd just be glad there's a windshield in front of me on that one. And not just a windscreen held on by a couple hose clamps like we got. I got the
Travis,
true enough.
When I think back on your season, I think you had a lot of crappy luck. Just stupid shit. As a racer, how do you get over that? How do you get past the bad luck? What do you do to kind of turn that page?
Ooh, I'm glad we went here because I struggled with it big time at Ash Weekend, because like I came back with my own team and I was struggling to afford stuff a little bit. Then we started getting some stuff together and I got a little help. And the COVID year hit and we could start hitting every race going. And then like 2020 and 2022, I was running pretty good and getting top 5s and hitting top 10 pretty much most of the time. And then even this year on the shorter tracks, I was still pretty much there. But then at the res, I just kind of, yeah, like you say, a lot of bad luck. And I started off good opening night and then had that deal with Holly, which I felt was a lot my fault. And then the very next week did it again. And I definitely, on my side, was just in my own head for the rest of the year. Like I needed an Adam Ross Mindwell session. I think he even came to the pits and tried to give me some, but they didn't work. And yeah, that's the main thing. I was in my own head for the rest of the year. And it is so easy to get down on yourself like that, start questioning whether you're good at it or not, still do it. And then you go have a good run a little bit. But then, yeah, I was just struggling at the res. I know that new inside wall is going to help because that was the main problem. But I started feeling better when other people started to do it too. But yeah, 2 weeks in a row, man, that had me from pretty high to pretty low pretty quick.
And it can do it. Clint, were you and I ever together at Super Dirt Week listening to Brett Hearn's radio?
I don't think so, no.
His radio is like Mike Tyson's entourage. You're the man, Brett. Way to go, BH. You're on. This is what's being said on the radio throughout the race. Go get him, BH. You got this. I'm like, wow. Like, this is really happening. But obviously it's for a reason, right? Positive reinforcement all the time. Everything matters. In fact, Brett Hearn even mentioned in his Victory Lane interview from Charlotte when he won the race is that he had forgotten how to visualize winning a race. And that's what he thought about the day before the race, going to the racetrack. What it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like. And sure enough, he goes out and wins it. So the psychology of racing is enormous.
I don't even understand it to the point. Like I listen to other pro drivers now and just other drivers talk about that kind of stuff. And like, yeah, it's immense. Like, can't even describe it.
I got a couple for you before we go. We got about 2 minutes left. So first off, quickly, Fran wants to know, does the inner wall at Humberstone intimidate you?
No,
As
I'm
a
a
driver.
real, like I've rubbed that thing a bunch, never ripped my front tire off like I was freaking did this year. Just because like that first night there was the block that was hanging out. I cut it on my GoPro and then they fixed it. So yeah, that you're never going to have something hanging out like that at Humberstone. And I've definitely scuffed that one quite a few times. I'm very familiar with the one at Merrittville as well. I'm familiar with most of the inside walls, although all my wins were on the cushion.
The other one I got for you, Travis, Merrittville has, in the modifieds, they've got all these engine rules. What's the future there? It just scares me on the outside looking in. How does it work out in the long term?
Yeah, I don't know how to get into that one, but definitely got to get people to stop disagreeing with everything. Like, I don't know, there just seems to be a lot of, like, if you would have told my dad when he was alive that the pavement late model rules were more in line than dirt modified rules in Ontario, he would never believe you. Because back when we had our shop and we were mostly asphalt late models, like Adam said, like every single track had different rules back then, and they were always kind of trying to outdo each other. And yeah, that's the main thing. Just universal rules is what usually brings cars. And that's what like I say, my dad wouldn't believe what's going on right now with that.
Right on. Adam, anything you got before we let him go?
No, just thanks for hanging with us, Travis. Keep up the good work. I love that you're announcing and racing. You're doing both pretty well, so keep it up.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on again. Second time on. And yeah, I always watch your show and try to be as active in the chat as I can when I can be.
I still look at you, Travis, and think, how the hell did you ever become a personality? You never used to say shit ever, and here you are out there killing it. So good job, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks. And yeah, a funny story about that. Like my mom can talk your ear off, like small talk, but then if you were to put her in a situation like this, she would lock up. And like, I know a lot of people like that. Like I've asked people on the podcast, same kind of thing. And they're like, oh, I can talk. But then when I'm in that, I get locked up. Where I'm in the opposite. If you get me at a wedding, I won't say stuff, anything. And then put me in something like this where I can talk about racing and I'll just yak your head off.
You forget the microphone's even in your hand, right? Like, especially when you get to work with a partner.
Yeah.
All you're doing is talking about what you're seeing, which even if I'm not announcing a race, I'm still thinking the words in my head as I watch it. It's just what you do.
Yeah. For me, I always loved announcers growing up. For me, my favorite one was always Dave Buchanan. I don't know, like he was super young when he started and I was always going to Lancaster. And I don't know, it's just his voice. I always loved it. That and like there was always this guy, Lancaster. He's still there. Last time I was there, but the cold beer guy, I love that guy. Him and Dave Buchanan were my first two like, influences for the announcing world.
That's
I got
awesome.
two things for you guys before we go. Mike Thorne asked, what do we know about the Humberstone schedule? The Humberstone schedule is going to be about 6 to 8 races. Nothing too major, but all the races will be bigger events, mostly on the long weekends and Sundays. And I think Terry's hoping to have that out in a couple weeks. So we'll see how that all comes together there. And last but not least, I got to wish my dad a happy birthday. Dad watches every week. Happy 72nd
Yes.
birthday to Gary today. And we're going to go hang out with him now.
Hey,
birthday,
Tim's Corner was on tonight. We've made the big time if we're showing up down in the Maritimes. I love
There's
it.
a
I love
guest we
seeing
need to get on.
Yes. Oh, have you chatted with him much, Clint?
I worked with him when I went out east to work the Parts for Trucks Pro Stock Tour with Joe Chisholm Race Time about 8-10 years ago, maybe. I was one reporter
I
and Tim was in the booth, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
I
so
just love getting to catch up with him. Forget about working with him, but that's great too. I just love being able to shoot the shit with someone who loves it. And I do need to go on the record, Rob Twitchett. I'm sorry, I was miserable today when Rob was at the office. I was having an ugly. It was about 45 minutes of bad day.
Bad Adam. Thanks, Travis. Thanks, Lane. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here today. Mac Deman as well. I appreciate all you guys hanging out. Spencer, all the work you do for us as well. And we'll see you again next week.